You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper.
And I'm Pooh.
Boy, I almost forgot to put your pot up there, didn't I? Okay. Looks like the military has found our new frequency. The loud jamming that you hear is a military crypto teletype transmission. And I don't know how long it's going to go on, but we're going to broadcast anyway. We are ruffling a lot of feathers and making a lot of people out there very angry because we're bringing them out of the shadows and into the light. See, we can turn those phrases too. Let's go to Phoenix for the metal report. Good evening, Gene.
Good evening, Bill. How are you doing tonight?
Good.
Well, let's see here. Gold today had a high of 388.60, a low of 387.50, to close at $388 even, up 40 cents. Silver had a high of $5.51, a low of $5.47, to close at $5.48, down a penny. Platinum had a high of $424.50 and a low of $414.50, to close at $414.50, down 30 cents. And the Dow had a high of 3886.90 and a low of 3862, to close at 3875.10, down 1.70. I just, this afternoon I came across an interesting little letter. This was a letter that one of the brokers actually, he wrote to Secretary Lloyd Benson in the Treasury, and he didn't respond, but somebody in the office responded with a personal letter from the Department of Treasury in Washington, D.C. And one of the paragraphs, and the broker was asking questions about the ever-famous Federal Reserve notes, and he was going on talking about Federal Reserve notes and the Federal Reserve in itself. And one little paragraph I thought was interesting. It said here, Federal Reserve notes are not redeemable in gold or silver or any other commodity. They have not been redeemable since 1933. Thus, after 1933, a Federal Reserve note did not represent a promise to pay gold or anything else, even though the term note was retained as part of the currency. You have to understand the legal term of note meant that there was a promise to pay in some hard, tangible currency. Well, even though it's on there, it's still, they even admit it, even though the term note was retained as part of the currency. In the sense, they are not redeemable. Federal notes have not been backed by anything since 1933. They are valued not for themselves, but for what they will buy. In other words, in other sense, because they are a legal tender, Federal Reserve notes are backed by all the goods and services in the economy. As I was reading that book that was offered about a week ago.
That translates into backed by the stupid sheeple.
Exactly. Well, here's a quote. Where did I see it here? This is how the Federal Reserve creates money out of nothing. Okay? There's a kind of a 4 steps here. So step number 1, the Fed writes a check for $1 million. This money is created out of thin air with nothing more than a book entry. Unlike a personal check, there is no money on deposit to cover the check. The Fed gives a securities dealer the check, and the dealer gives the Fed a government security bond. The bond is backed by the government's assets. Guess what the government's assets are? You and me. and Congress good faith pledge on behalf of the American people. In other words, the Congress pledges your taxes to back up this bond. And the dealer deposits the check in his bank. The bank sends the check to the Fed for payment, who credits the bank's account $1 million. And thus, money was created out of nothing, and guess who gets to pay for it? You do. Another little quote here. And one of the people, as we look at history, who just, was aware of this tyranny was President Kennedy. And in if I can turn my page here.
63.
1963, June 4th, Executive Order 11110, ordered the Federal Reserve to no longer print money and ordered the Treasury to print United States notes. Well, 4 months later, he was assassinated. In a quote, 10 days before his assassination, said, "The high office of the president has been used to foment a plot to destroy the Americans' freedom. And before I leave office, I must inform the citizens of this plight." Kind of scary, huh?
No, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to take our country back. If we can get the assets, those are the asses that are setting, to get up off of their asses and get them moving, we might be able to do something.
Here's a quote from a congressman just last year. It says, "We are now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the United States government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future. There are some who say that it is the coroner's report that will lead to our demise." This is Congressman James Trapsett, House Record 1303, March 17th, 1993.
Very good.
I mean, folks, it's right there before your very eyes. And just to let you know what's going to happen with your wonderful little Federal Reserve notes that you're all sitting on hatching like little eggs. Back in January of 1919, gold brought 170, for an ounce of gold you could buy an ounce of gold for 170 marks in Germany. 4 years later, as they just kept printing money out of nothing, it would take $87 trillion to buy 1 ounce of gold.
Now that's illuminating.
So, keep your money. Give us a call. We got some information. If you haven't got this book yet, call us. It's called Economic Solutions by Peter Kershaw. I mean, it is absolutely, as you just said, illuminating. There's things in here that, I was somewhat aware of, but I mean, it's been just absolutely an incredible book. We'll show you how you can get one. We can even give you a $10 coupon in it to purchase your first coin or first piece of gold or silver. And just give us a call, 1-800-289-2646. We've also got our new newsletter out called True Lies. We'll be happy to put together a complete packet for you. But do give us a call, and do let us know if you call at night. Let us know who you call from the William Cooper Show. Very important for us. And I talked to somebody called the other day, and they wanted this book. And I said, well, it's, they're $8.95 because they're not our books, they're Peter Kershaw's books. And
they already know that.
I told him, I said, I'll give you a $10 coupon on. He said, well, I don't want to do that. I thought, well, what are you calling for? If you want free information, go to the library.
Well, now we can't say that because we told them to call for the free information.
No, I'm talking about this was later.
Oh, yeah, after the yeah.
No, but
after the deadline.
I'll even get one out to you. I'll even pay for it. If it'll help you make a decision to like you say, get off your assets and start doing something.
Okay. Thank you, Gene.
Thanks, Bill.
Call now, folks. 1-800-289-2646. You know how you are. Do it now. Don't wait. 1-800-289-2646. You'll be real happy after you've done that, especially if you decide to do something about protecting some of what you've got before you lose it all. Pooh, would you like to open the show for us?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's no coincidence, ladies and gentlemen, that the law firm that Hillary Clinton works for belongs to the man, one of the founders of the American Bar Association, and is named the Rose Law Firm. Ancient Mystery Babylon sat on or controlled 6 historic world powers. Modern Mystery Babylon, English Freemasonry, sat on. That is, funded and controlled the 7th, Nazi Germany. Likewise, English Freemasonry is today in control of the contemporary 7-nation Trilateral Commission. And there is a great propaganda campaign being waged across this country to make you believe that you are part of the promise of British Israel, so that you will help destroy freedom. The Trilateral Commission is a 3rd-generation offspring of English Freemasonry. The 1st-generation offspring is the Round Table, created by Cecil Rhodes. The 2nd generation consists of the 3 Round Table groups. The Council on Foreign Relations, are known as the CFR, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, or the RIIA, located in Chatham House, which is, ladies and gentlemen, the headquarters of British intelligence, their private club, so to speak, and the Institute of Pacific Relations, or IPR. From the Round Table groups sprang the 3rd generation in 1973, known as the Trilateral Commission, which was then given the task of implementing English Freemasonry's concept of one world idealism. The of trilateral, of course, refers to 3 regions of the world: North America, Western Europe, and Japan. This division may also correlate with the 3-part body of the beast. Commission bespeaks the function given the Trilateral Commission by English Freemasonry, quote, to foster closer cooperation among these 3 regions, end quote. The nation members of the Trilateral Commission are the 7 most potent industrial powers of the world: the United States of America, Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Membership also includes the heads of major oil companies, multinational corporations, and international banks. Aristocrats and politicians are members as well, including our past President George Bush. Our current President, Bill Clinton, is a member of the Bilderbergers, which we know is a cover for English Freemasonry's Round Table. And as a Rhodes Scholar, Clinton is an Anglophile. Since its founding, the Trilateral Commission has met annually to discuss solutions to common problems that hinder English Freemasonry's control and goal of controlling world government. A few months following each annual meeting, the heads of state of the 7 industrial powers hold a summit to work out a strategy for implementing these solutions, a strategy that often involves each nation's legislature. Of course, the subversive lawmakers are Anglophile politicians groomed by the Round Table groups to assure passage of any bill that would serve the special one world interest of English Freemasonry. Indeed, John's 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth appear to be the 7-nation Trilateral Commission on which English Freemasonry sitteth. Lieutenant Colonel James Bogrites is a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite. Babylon was the dominant world power when Jeremiah prophesied. Some of his prophecies were pronounced and carried out upon the Babylon of his day. Others were directed at a future Babylon, which name describes an entity, not a literal city of Babylon. We should not, for instance, be looking for the literal city of Babylon in modern Iraq to be rebuilt to fulfill Jeremiah's end-time prophecy. And remember, wherever you hear end time, it translates as end of the age. For the real word that's translated is aeon, which means age. Jeremiah 51, verse 13, describes the location of the end of the age spiritual Babylon. Quote, O you who dwell by many waters, abundant in treasures, your end is come, the measure of your end, end quote. Taken literally, this cannot mean modern Iraq, since Iraq is not surrounded by many waters, nor abundant in treasures. Great Britain, however, is abundant in treasures. She is also completely surrounded by many waters. The Atlantic Ocean to the west, the North Sea to the north and east, and the English Channel to the south. In verse 42, Jeremiah says, quote, "The sea has come up over Babylon. She has been engulfed with its tumultuous waves," end quote. Now, taken figuratively, sea means peoples, as in Revelation chapter 17, verse 15, quote, "The waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues," end quote. London boasts of having every nationality within its city limits. It is not really an English city, but an international city. An interesting scripture concerning the mother of harlots is found in Revelation chapter 18, verse 7. And it reads, quote, "How much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." End quote. Could this scripture signify the seat of Mystery Babylon, as well as allude to an actual queen sitting on the modern Babylonian throne? Consider, dear listeners, Queen Elizabeth II of England. As head of state, she is patroness of English Freemasonry and head of the Church of England. Her consort, Prince Philip, 3rd Duke of Edinburgh, is a Freemason. The Grand Master of the British Brotherhood is the Duke of Kent, the Queen's cousin. In January 1983, the Queen and her consort toured the United States. There seems to be no apparent reason for her visit other than the honor bestowed on her by the Bohemian Club of California during the last evening of her stay. And it was quite an extravaganza. The Bohemian Club is a West Coast center for the inner elite of Templar Scottish Rite Freemasonry in the United States. Some of its members are Senator Alan Cranston, former FBI and CIA Director William Webster, former Secretaries of State George Shultz and Henry Kissinger, George Bush, and many, many others. On February the 3rd, 1983, a 5-minute segment of the Bohemian Club's extravaganza in honor of Queen Elizabeth was aired on all 3 television networks. The event began with a view of the Queen sitting slightly high in the middle of the auditorium, as if on top a pyramid. 2 dancers entered the stage wearing huge hats hanging from cable. The cone of the first hat was representative of a walled city with a pyramid, or ziggurat, towering in the middle, reminding one of descriptions of ancient Babylon. Obviously, it portrayed ancient Babylon, as you will soon see. At the base of the pyramid, 2 doors continuously flapped open and shut, displaying inside a large picture of Prince Charles, successor to the British throne, and his wife, Princess Diana. As the dancer in hat moved stage right, the second dancer entered from stage left. The cone on the second hat portrayed the city of London, with Big Ben towering in the center. When both dancers centered themselves with the brims of the huge hats reaching from one end of the stage to the other, a voice, as if out of the very air, bellowed, quote, "O Queen, you have traversed the ages from Babylon to London," end quote. Ever so slightly, and without a smile, Queen Elizabeth nodded as if in agreement to the statement. That night, the Bohemian Club, an arm of Templar Scottish Rite Freemasonry, acknowledged London as the seat of Mystery Babylon. Queen Elizabeth accepted that acknowledgement. If London is the city that the Apostle John saw in his vision, Queen Elizabeth's life and nation will be short-lived. For who knows better the headquarters of its rival than the ruthless French Knights Templar Scottish Rite of Freemasonry? There will come a time when God will no longer tolerate the sins of Mystery Babylon and will destroy her. Before that happens, however, God in His mercy warns His people to sever their relationship with the whore of Babylon. In Revelation chapter 18, verses 4 through 5, God warns, quote, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." End quote. Revelation chapter 17, verses 12 through 18, and all of Revelation 18 record the end of the age destruction of Mystery Babylon. This absolutely horrible description says that it will be so rapid and complete that it can only be accomplished by modern nuclear weaponry. Revelation chapter 18, verses 10 and 11 describes the financial depression that this destruction will bring upon the whole earth. Quote, "Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more." End quote. The headquarters of Mystery Babylon cannot, dear listeners, be Rome. It should be obvious that if Rome were obliterated by a nuclear bomb today, the world economic system would not suffer. Conversely, if London, the financial capital of the world, were likewise destroyed, the world economic system would suddenly halt, collapse, as indicated in the Scripture. English Freemasonry is the mother of harlots. London is Mystery Babylon. Ground zero is at 10 Duke Street, St. James, London, England, SW1, the 33rd degree Supreme Council headquarters of English Freemasonry. Now you know the identity of the Queen of Babylon, and you know the identity of Mystery Babylon. And now there is no excuse for not coming out of her, as you were admonished to do in the book that you all claim cannot lie. In Isaiah chapter 28, verses 15 through 18, I quote, "We have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves." Isaiah also says, and I quote, "Judgment also will I lay to the measuring line, and righteousness to the plummet, and the hall shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the water shall overflow the hiding place, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand." End quote. George Bush was a member of what is known as the Brotherhood of Death, also known as the Russell Trust. Hell in the Bible literally means grave or crypt. He took his initiation in the crypt at Yale University. The symbol of the Knights Templars is the skull and bones, which is also the symbol of the Brotherhood of Death, or the Russell Trust. It is also a prominent symbol in Freemasonry, also in the Rosy Cross, the Knights of Pythias, and many others. Many, many others. It is time. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to mature. You now know the identity of Mystery Babylon. And now I will begin the revelation of the identity of the beast.
Yeah. Check it. The Illuminati, lost sons of heaven. Fresh. Yo. All these rats and vipers got me writing letters in Caesar's cipher, telling them they better pay the piper before I get hyper and use the knife. The only reason you ain't lose your life is cause I'm trying to follow the words of Christ. So I suppose I'll settle for a heist, steal your mic, start committing verbal murder. The illest shit you ever heard of, busting them around just like a burner, turning teachers to learners, leave them speechless and curious. But hurry, it's too fast and too furious. The moral of the story is I'm taking the game back like historians, riding DeLoreans, cause in my future your glory ends. And I'm rolling with all of my friends in a bulletproof Benz, bumping notorious, pulling up to something Victorian, stepping out like Max Julian, rocking reptilians, heavily armed like Roman centurions. This is where the journey begins. My composition's real as fuck while the opposition pretends the competition sucks, thus a title I defend. The purse I dispense, the name is fresh and killing is versus past tense. Yeah. What they call you now, huh? They call me Indiana Jones cause I always stay away from snakes and lay away my cape. Refuse to speak to Jake, to lose or even contemplate drinking from the cup full of the filthiness you fornicate. For your wealthiness cannot afford my weight. The sacrifices that you devise I despise. I realize the deception was certain the second I sense a stench of the sturgeon, witnessing the wolf disguised as a sheep, spitting the lies of the serpents.
And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate. Revelation chapter 17, verses 9 through 13, and verse 16. I would remind you that a good portion of this broadcast comes from a book entitled Scarlett and the Beast, my own research, the research of the members of CAGI and the Intelligence Service. If you would like a copy of this book, send us $39.95. It's post-paid. Make checks or money orders out to Annie, A-N-N-I-E, A-N-N-I-E. Send them to the Intelligence Service, Post Office Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. That's P.O. Box 1420, Sholo, Arizona, 85901. Now, folks, Scripture sometimes expresses the beast as a nation, and at other times as a person. As a person, the beast is so integrated with his empire that beast and empire become one. In our search for the beast, whether man or empire, it is significant to understand that Scripture teaches that the beast will sign a treaty with Israel, guaranteeing her 7 years of peace. With that guarantee, the Jews will accept the beast as Messiah, because they, as the rest of the world, will be deceived. It is worthwhile to recall again the statement made by Arthur Crawford, pastor and Bible teacher from Riverside Bible Church in Columbus, Ohio, on the who or what the beast Messiah. And 2 rabbis have suggested that as far as they are concerned, Messiah could be a set of nations, a world power that guaranteed their integrity. An individual or organization, they don't really care. Any of those, according to the rabbis, would meet the biblical prophecies of Messiah. In our search for the beast, we are looking only for the empire and not the man. We learned in the previous chapter that the 7 heads of the beast are historic world powers, Nazi Germany being the 7th. Revelation chapter 17, verse 11 states that the 8th is the beast empire. In Daniel chapter 7, verse 7, the prophet says that this beast is different from all the beasts that were before it. In Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 through 39, the prophet explains how the end-time beast shall differ from all other previous gods, tyrants, and evildoers. Listen carefully. Quote, "And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory." End quote. That the beast disregards traditional gods suggests that he will take his government out from under the mystic control of the whore of Babylon, which is English Freemasonry. He will replace the traditional gods with a strange god called the God of forces, whom he increases with glory. What does the prophet Daniel mean by the phrase, the God of forces? The Hebrew word for forces literally means fortified place, fortress, or strength. Figuratively, it means defense. The word strange means to respect. The beast will increase this God with glory. The word increase means to build up, and the word glory means riches. Now, with these definitions in mind, let us interpret the passage as follows. Daniel is revealing that the God of the end-of-the-age beast will be an awesome defense force that the world respects. A defense force that is built up with riches. We know that today's military armament is promoted as defense, and that, ironically, military budgets are called defense budgets. Revelation chapter 13, verse 4 confirms the awesome defense capability of the beast. Quote, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" End quote. Confirmation that we are living in the days prophesied by John and Daniel is also found in the world's monetary outlay on armament. You see, on June 10, 1991, Reuters News Syndicate reported in newspapers across our nation that during the decade of the 1980s, global spending on arms approached $1 trillion. In 1990 alone, says Reuters, world spending on the military was about $900 billion. This amounts to spending almost $2 million a minute on war and the weapons of war, an unprecedented amount in the annals of history. And Reuters was not talking about, nor was it taking into consideration, arms bought by individual citizens. Scripture indicates that the beast will rely upon military might to gain and maintain power. We have, in the course of these broadcasts, seen how all French Masonic-backed revolutions have used military might, violence, and terror to achieve their ends. Remember the reign of terror in France, when the streets literally ran with blood as the heads were lopped off, minute after minute, hour after hour, day by day, week after week, and month after month. The guillotines never rested. We can conclude that the beast will be a nation that, with the help of French Freemasonry, will cast out by revolution the horn of a monarchy and form a new nation. When this new nation matures, it will become a mighty nation with an awesome defense force. A nation, ladies and gentlemen, that will, with one exception, have the same characteristics of ancient Rome. The exception? The beast will not follow the mystery Babylonian religion of English Freemasonry, but will instead follow the atheist, humanist tradition of French Freemasonry, secular humanism, whereupon man will declare himself as God. The allegiance of the beast to French Freemasonry is confirmed in Scripture. You may recall that French Freemasonry declared in 1877 that there is no God. It proclaimed its secular humanism in the motto, quote, "To the glory of humanity," end quote. Likewise, the beast regards no God, and like French Freemasonry, which made a god of humanity, the beast then exalts himself and magnifies himself above every god, thus fulfilling Scriptures. Is there further scriptural evidence to support this interpretation of the nature of the beast? Dr. Alfred Rehrwinkel, in his book entitled The Flood, published in 1952, says that Jesus prophesied an end of the age world of atheist humanists. Listen carefully. In Matthew chapter 24, verse 37, Christ tells his disciples that the last days will be as it was in the days of Noah. Rehrwinkel says that, quote, "the generation before the flood was not a pagan or idolatrous race," end quote. He says they were godless. Rehrwinkel points to archaeological evidence which supports Scripture, and his thesis, quoting Sir Charles Leonard Woolley, a British archaeologist who has noted, quote, "In no single grave has there been any figure of a god, any symbol or ornament that strikes one as being of a religious nature," end quote. The Old Testament offers further insight into the atheistic, amoral humanism of the beast and his antediluvian precursors, known as the Atlanteans. Genesis chapter 6, verse 4 informs us what antediluvian humanity was like. Quote, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown," end quote. Rehrwinkel unravels the enigmas of this passage from Genesis and applies it to the atheistic humanists of our day and world. Quote, "The Hebrew word Nephilim means more than what we understand by the term giant. It means those that fall upon others, brigands, thugs, tyrants. These Nephilim were famous in that world. They had made a great name for themselves through their acts of violence, lawlessness, and corruption. They were known by all, and their statues were probably found in the antediluvian shrines of honor. There are Nephilim, or giants, in the world today. They are the men who rule this world. They hold their councils in secret. They dispose of countries and millions of human beings as so many figures on a chessboard. They confiscate property that does not belong to them and condemn millions of innocent people to a horrible death of misery and starvation. They blot out whole cities of men, women, and children with hell-born missiles of death, but they are applauded as great men and renowned, and their portraits and statues are given a place of honor in the halls of fame in our world today," end quote. Rehrwinkel suggests that the sons of God were not supernatural beings, but powerful men who considered themselves as gods, exactly as it was stated in the Garden of Eden. A humanistic philosophy which follows atheism. Likewise, we see that Daniel's beast is atheistic because he regards no God. The beast reveals his humanist face when he declares himself as God. If the beast God arises out of French Freemasonry, it is understandable why, according to Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, he will destroy his competitor, English Freemasonry, which believes in many gods. The Apostle John also suggests that the beast kingdom will come out of French Freemasonry, and in Revelation 13, verse 1, he saw the beast, quote, "rise up out of the sea," end quote. Now the sea, remember, is a figure of speech for the mass of people upon the earth. As Revelation 17, verse 15 explains, quote, "The waters which thou sawest are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues," end quote. The French Masonic revolutions sprang from the grassroots of mass movements, and these movements then created democratic republics run by the people and for the people. Unlike English Freemasonry, which wants a world government run by an elite aristocracy, French Freemasonry is working feverishly toward a universal democratic republic run by the people. If the beast arises out of French Freemasonry, naturally the beast's empire will be a democratic republic, as was ancient Rome, and that is why I caution you on this broadcast that there is no patriot organization. The leaders of both sides are controlling this clash, and it really makes no difference which side wins. One, you will be under the aristocratic control of English Freemasonry. The other, you will be under the socialistic, communistic control of French Freemasonry. Most of the leaders in the Patriot movement belong to the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which are the Templars of France. You had better wake up, ladies and gentlemen. You are being manipulated beyond manipulation, and you haven't got the basis in education or understanding to even know which way the tide is flowing. It is my belief that humanity must mature. Each individual must stop following leaders and movements, but must follow the truth. Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And that should be the prime order of the day. It is the only order around here. The only order around here. Clarence Larkin, in the book of Revelation 19:19, pictures the beast as having 7 heads with 10 crowned horns on the 7th head. At first, reading this would appear to be the description in Revelations 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the land of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. Revelation, however, does not specifically state that the 10 horns are on the 7th head. Which head the crowned horns are upon is a matter of interpretation. It could be, dear listeners, that the 10 horns are actually the 8th head in Revelation, chapter 17, verses 10 through 11. Quote, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other, the 7th, is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7. End quote. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 3, we learn that one of the beast's heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed. By interpreting the wounded and healed heads in this passage as the 7th and 8th heads in Revelation chapter 17, verse 11, Larkin pictures the two as being one. He does this by changing the word 7 to 7th. He writes, quote, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th, end quote. Since he was writing in 1919, Larkin's interpretation is understandable. He wrote before the rise of Nazi Germany, the 7th head. Larkin agrees with Scripture that the beast is the 8th head, but it is a matter of interpretation whether the beast actually came out of the 7th head or out of one of the 7th. Since 1919, we have been given almost 3/4 of a century of history to be illumined by Bible prophecy. We can hold this history up to Scripture and see what, from these years, is a possible fulfillment of prophecy. And I would caution you, as I have always done, you must understand what is fulfillment of prophecy and what is fulfillment by man. We can now see that the 8th head is not of the 7th, for John describes his visions of the 8th head as if he himself were contemporary with the end of the age. And the beast that was and is not Let me read it another way, and I'm going to insert some meaning so that you'll understand what I'm reading. Quote, "And the beast that was," meaning the sixth head of old Rome, "and is not," which means the slain head or demise of old Rome, "even he is the eighth," which is the healed head or revived Rome. Notice that John skips the seventh head, which we believe is Nazi Germany. Our hypothesis is that the 10 crowns or 10 kings are on the eighth head. And this understanding is further strengthened by verse 12, where it is written that the beast gives power to the 10 kings, and by verse 13, where we are told, "These 10 kings have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast," which is the eighth head. Who or what are the 10 crowns or kings that will adorn the head of the beast? Well, prophecy scholars believe that the 10 kings in Revelation chapter 17, verse 12, will be 10 of the 12 member nations which make up the European Economic Community, known as the EEC, or European Common Market, or United States of Europe. These scholars view the Common Market as the revived Roman Empire, since the Common Market encompasses the western territory of the old Roman Empire. They believe the EEC is the embryo of the beast, the eighth world power recorded by John. Grand Orient Freemasonry was the force behind the Treaty of Rome, which formed the EEC in 1957. Every single president of the EEC has since been a Grand Orient Mason. Its current head is France's President François Mitterrand at the time, the most powerful 33rd degree Grand Orient Mason in Europe. In 1957, the original signatories of the Treaty of Rome were 6 nations: France, West Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Their intent is eventually to unite Europe, a desire of French Freemasonry as far back as Napoleon Bonaparte. And that emerged again in 1848 when the Grand Orient first mentioned by name the idea of inaugurating the United States of Europe. Dr. Walter Hallstein, 33rd degree Grand Orient Mason and past president of the EEC, detailed the vision of a united Europe in a speech in the 1960s when he said this, quote, "3 phases of the European unification are to be noted. First, the customs union. Second, the economic union. Third, the political union. What we have created on the way to uniting Europe is a mighty economic political union of which nothing may be sacrificed for any reason. Its value exists not only in what it is, but more in what it promises to become. We may fully expect the great fusion of all economic, military, and political communities together into the United States of Europe," end quote. Charles de Gaulle, President of France from 1958 to 1969, used the EEC as an instrument in the service of French interests, attempting once in 1963 to unite Europe under its banner, with France the leader. De Gaulle failed when opposed by West Germany. De Gaulle did, however, successfully oppose in 1958 and 1963, that's 1958 and 1963, 2 attempts by Great Britain to join the EEC. For economic survival, London organized in 1959 the 7-Nation European Free Trade Association, or EFTA, with Austria, Norway, Portugal, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland, and Iceland. The purpose of the EFTA was to reduce tariffs on imports received from other member countries. As described in Revelation 17, verse 9, this combination of 7 nations should be considered the whore of Babylon, English Freemasonry, sitting on 7 heads. The EFTA, however, ceased operation when England, Denmark, and Ireland were allowed to join the European Common Market in 1973. The very same year that the 7-Nation Trilateral Commission reared its ugly head and was founded by the Anglophile Council on Foreign Regulations under British Freemasonry. In 1981, Greece joined the common market, increasing the total to 10. Bible prophecy scholars were ecstatic. I don't know why. It signifies great suffering. This joy, evinced by hum, is sickening to me. But since that time, Spain and Portugal have joined. The EEC, however, is still considered by scholars as part of the future revived Roman Empire, which entity, if this interpretation is correct, will in God's time consist of 10 nations. The EEC inaugurated the United States of Europe, or the USE, on December 31st, 1992, 7 years to the day of year 2000. 10 of the 12 nations voted to accept the Eurodollar as common currency. The two holdouts were England and Ireland. In July 1993, both nations voted to accept the European currency, although there are still 12 nations in the EEC. When the beast burns London, Ireland will fall too, and there will be 10 nations. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and God bless you all. We will continue this tomorrow night and every other night as long as it takes. And we will absolutely pinpoint and identify the beast.
Yeah. Tell you how dirty this game is. Damn. Yo, I was born into this dirty game. That's how I got the name that I hold. Drugs were sold cause this game is old. My boys got shot cause this game is cold. I started running with the crew and all the dirty things they do, till that shot went pop. That's the only time when time stopped. Left the block, bought the watch, caught my mom's a spot. Yet still far from the top, so it's back to the block. Fresh the fire starter, young Marlon Brando, the godfather. I met a honey and had a daughter. The girl got sick of the way that I live and ran off with my kid. So I suppose my lifestyle's to blame. Even though I'm in the game, God's test for us is all the same. It's all the same, y'all. The confession, Professor the dirt I done with the Smith & Wesson. Tales of Friday nights, from LA to Tijuana. Puffing on that ganja, moving and abusing drugs, fornicating without the love. This message I send above, these stories I tell. Please don't send me to hell. I swear I'm sincere, I'm not pretend. I promise I'll never do it again. In this game I was born to win this. Please God grant me forgiveness, I'm sorry.